So we're going to have lots and lots of fun today. We're just going to go through, it's all about me. No, it's not. It's about my trip. No, it's just about the trip I went to Israel, obviously, as you can see up there on the slides. What we're going to do is, I'm going to go through these slides, but I don't want to just talk and talk and talk. What I want is you guys to ask questions, because I don't want to just be a talker without you guys really not, being that interested. Ask questions. Stop me at any time. Ask me any questions anytime you want. I might be looking up at the screen, so just shout something out, or don't even have to raise your hand. Whatever. I want you guys to kind of dictate how this Sunday school is going to go. So, as y'all know, I went to Israel back in January. My trip was in Israel for about 9 days, January 13th to the 23rd, 2 days of travel, 9 days there. And it was a great experience. I would recommend it to anybody who wants to go. It cost $3,600 for me to go, and that was including all the hotels, that included all the airfare, that included all the meals except for lunches. We would go, we flew there, we stayed at this hotel in Jerusalem for 5 nights, and then we stayed at a hotel in Magdala, which is near Tiberias, the Sea of Galilee, on the Sea of Galilee for the next 3 nights. And me being a cheapskate, every morning they had buffet for breakfast and buffet for dinner. So I would eat a ton of food in the morning so I didn't have to pay for lunch. Win-win. They had really good food there. The hotels were like high-class hotels that were booked for us. And you know what? Me being the cheapskate, if I would have booked it, I would have gone, let's find the cheapest hotel and save money. But looking back, I'm very happy that the company booked actually nice hotels. And the food was very good. No complaints with Land of the Bible tours at all. They did a phenomenal job. The pastor who started the tour company is called Kurt Skelly. He's a pastor in Virginia. He started about 20 years ago. This was his 52nd trip to Israel. He's been there about 52 times in about 20-ish, 25 years or something. His knowledge of the Bible is phenomenal. What he was telling me on the trip was that I was asking about when he got started, when do you start doing tours? And he was like, essentially the very first time. So he had gone, some pastor had said, you gotta go. And he was like, eh. And then some people from Pastor Skelly's church wanted to go, so they went. And then he started going to these places, and he would say, could I speak to my church people about this spot? And then they get to the next spot. Hey, could I speak to? So he started talking, and essentially he started his tour ministry almost right then and there, and he started organizing tours, and he started going back, and he's gone back 52 times because he's bringing people, and he's helping them experience Israel, and there's no other experience like that. So we're just going to go through pictures. I had someone from the tour was going to give me a really nice presentation with really professional pictures, and I couldn't get it to work, so that's unfortunate. So I put together last night some of my pictures, which are not that great, and there's not enough, and I've got a lot of videos that I'm not able to put in, a lot of teaching, a lot of great views, and I wasn't able to fit them in the slides, so this is what you get. This is what you get, my bad pictures. This is the type of, I wish I could have gotten the better ones, but this is what we're left with, so. Where are we at? Just wanted to include this picture because I was flying into Israel, and this sunrise was absolutely epic. I had a tinted window, so it might have done that to the colors, but it was just amazing. First thing we visited was the Wailing Wall. And again, I've got a lot of slides. I got like 48 slides and videos, so I'm going to try to go through these quick. Interrupt me at any time. Ask a question at any time. Wailing Wall was the first thing we went to. This was the first day. I got this picture later on another day when more Jews were there at the Wailing Wall. Oh boy, real quick, where's the laser pointer? Is it that red one? Aha, okay, laser pointer isn't really, looks like it doesn't sunshine off the screens. Yeah, okay. I can point the laser at you guys, but I can't really point at the screen. All right, so the Wailing Wall, Jeremiah, sorry, I'm going to mess up your camera stuff, but you can kind of see there's 7 layers of stone. I guess I can't really reach it. I could stand up on the piano and actually reach up there, but I'm not going to. I don't think I should do that. But you can see there's 7 layers of stone where the original Temple Mount was. So those stones are 2,000 years old. Everything after that is newer when they rebuilt it after the Romans destroyed it. At one point, I was able to see stones, humongous stones that the Romans had knocked down and were still laying there after 2,000 years from the Temple Mount. It was really cool to just see. There's stones the Romans knocked over 2,000 years ago, AD 70. But yeah, anyways, it was really, when Jesus said no one stone will be left upon another, it literally happened because those stones that you see now, the 7 layers, those were below ground in Jesus' day. So no one stone was left upon another. That was a prophecy that came true. One of the next things we visited on our first day in Israel, in Jerusalem, was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. This is where the traditional and where Pastor Skelly believes Jesus actually was crucified and buried. Not at a church, but at Golgotha, and then later on they built the church over top of it. What Pastor Skelly called this was desecration by decoration, because what they did was they just built a big, dull, dark church on top of it. It was very dull and dark inside. It wasn't, they kind of covered up Golgotha. They covered it up, and it just was very dark and kind of depressing inside. And there's obviously other churches. There's I think 5 churches right in that spot. It seemed like in Israel, whenever there was a significant event, something happened here, somebody came along and put a church right on top of it. In some ways, that really makes me kind of sad and maybe a little frustrated with that. But in other ways, they preserved the site too. So if it ever got dug up, you could see right where things were. So, it was a little dull and dark inside, but we got to see that, which was probably, not sure, but probably the place where Jesus died and was buried. This is a short video of me taking a video of where the tomb was, or they believe the spot was. I don't really know, but this might have been the spot where Jesus lay. That's just getting a video. And obviously the Jews have come in and put all sorts of candles and pictures and things up. But that spot right there is what they claim to be the spot where Jesus lay. Next up, we got Hezekiah's wall. This was the wall Hezekiah built. I'm just going to go through these quickly. This was the wall that Hezekiah built back when Sennacherib invaded Israel. Ended up that Hezekiah didn't need the wall because God, you remember the story, God had sent the death angel and they slew all the Sennacherib's army. But he built a wall and he built a water tunnel so that water wouldn't be a weak point coming out through the city walls. This is still on our first day. The Golden Menorah, this is built, I found this really interesting. It's probably about 7 feet tall. That thing is built for the next temple already. They already built it for the next temple. I was like, what? They already built a few different things for the next temple. I was kind of amazed that they've already got things going, but the Jews are ready to go to get that third temple built. It's just on display in a glass case in the middle of the Jewish quarter. Old Jerusalem is divided up into the Armenian, the Muslim, the Christian, and the Jewish quarters. This is in the city square of the Jewish quarter. Yeah, they've got that. They didn't have really anything else in the city square right there, but they've got other things everywhere being worked on. I don't know where their workshop is to make these.
I've heard that they basically have the temple ready to go. The stones are already there. They're ready to go.
Right. Okay, so yes, here's another thing. 2 things about that, actually. Number one, the Dome of the Rock isn't necessarily built on top of where the temple was. I'm going to show you a video if I got time for it. The Temple Mount is humongous. I bet you could fit 20,000 people up there, no issue. I was amazed at how big it was. But the Dome of the Rock is, they don't know where the temple was. The Dome of the Rock is built over the peak of the hill. So the temple could go in there. Maybe they're saying maybe they can build the temple without destroying the Dome of the Rock and make it another big war. Another part about that was being ready for the next temple. They brought in the red heifers. I didn't know too much about the red heifers until this trip, but they've got to have the red heifers again to do temple sacrifice. They brought them in from Texas and flew them in on a plane, of all things. I thought that was funny. But they brought these red heifers in, flew them on a plane, brought them from Texas to Israel, and that's what sparked Hamas to attack Israel. Because Hamas was like, we got to stop this. These guys are doing too much. They're going to build the temple. They're going to start their sacrifice again. We got to stop this. Hamas and Hezbollah Hezbollah's in Syria, Hamas is Gaza, right? The two terrorist organizations. They were in league. They were both going to put boots on the ground and attack Israel. This was a planned thing. When Israel got the red heifers back to Israel, then Hamas was like, we got to attack now. We can't wait. We got to attack now. So they attacked. That's when October 7th happened. Hezbollah, they didn't want to put boots on the ground. They were hesitant. They only sent rockets. They were killing people, and they actually killed a bunch of schoolboys playing in a soccer field, so that's why Israel went and attacked them also in Syria. But I found that really interesting. That's why the red heifer was why Hamas attacked Israel. So the significance of the red heifer, they've got to be, and you could probably tell me more about this than I could, but they need the red heifer they spread the ashes at the temple, and it has to be a very specific animal, no blemishes. Even the hairs, they were checking out, making sure that these red heifers don't have any white hairs on them at all.
Right, and they do believe that they need the red heifer to purify the temple and the instruments of the sacrifice, so that they can be holy and before the sacrifices can begin.
Yeah, I don't have any pictures up here. I mean, to me, they were just cows. I've seen them before, but I didn't take any pictures. But yeah, it was pretty cool because, like Pastor Scully was saying, it's been 1,700 years since they had red heifers in Israel. We're living in a time when prophecy is being fulfilled. Pretty crazy. Questions before I go on?
The Wailing Wall.
Yeah.
What's like the environment there? It's a holy site for the Jews now.
So, I didn't hear any wailing, but the Wailing Wall, it was named that because they were lamenting Israel's sins that caused the temple to be destroyed, that caused Rome to destroy them. So it wasn't wailing, it's all obviously, as you know, called the Western Wall because it's the western side of the Temple Mount. But it was like people going there and praying, putting hands on the wall and praying, putting notes in the cracks and the stones and writing down their prayers and putting them in the stones. I was wearing a baseball hat, but we had to wear those Jewish caps if we weren't already. And there was a whole lot of Jews doing what do you call it? Not like seminary work, but teaching type stuff. There was off to the one side. Let me see if I can go back a few pictures here. Off to the one side, off to the right, there was a whole bunch of schoolroom desks set up. And then so the older Jews were teaching younger Jews right there. So I guess some Jews lived right there, or their office was right behind, and they'd go down and go to the Wailing Wall, maybe teach or talk to people, do whatever. Then they go back up to their office and go back and forth and hold classes, whatever. So you see where in about the middle of the picture, those white umbrellas are, that's where all the desks were, and they would teach the young Jewish boys or girls right down there, and then probably farther over towards the middle and end of the walls where they'd pray and put their hands on the wall. Feel free to interrupt if you want to ask any more questions, but I'm just going to continue on in case nobody does. Pinnacle of the temple is on the left picture. That is very possibly, and that was super high, but that's not original. Again, it was probably built, I think, by the Byzantines later on, but that is possibly where Jesus was led by the devil and said, here, jump off this. You would not survive, I could tell you that. It was also where they believe, by tradition, James was martyred. They apparently threw him right off the edge and tried to throw him down into the valley of the Kidron. To the right is the valley of Kidron, and that's looking down. That's kind of looking away from Jerusalem. It's, right now you're just seeing mostly buildings, but it was a lot deeper than I expected. I'd seen videos of Israel before, someone panning over and saying, here's the Mount of Olives, there's the valley of Kidron. I'm like, okay, it's not that big. Well, when we got over to this edge, it was just like, wow, that's a distance down there. You can't really see it in the picture here, but there's cars down there, there's people down there walking, they just look like ants down there. So it was quite deep, and it's even 20 feet higher than it would have been in Jesus' day because of the erosion. So pretty neat. Let me keep going. Southern steps, I don't have a very good picture. I wish I had a better picture, but this is where the southern side of Temple Mount, where Jews would have walked up to the Temple Mount, walked up to the temple. Kind of on the left side of those gates there, you see that fence. The southern steps would have been on the left. Really cool there. So many Bible events happened there. This is just another kind of interesting thing. That's a original drain. So I don't know how old that is, but that drain is original. I think maybe 2,000 years old, I'm not quite sure. On the right picture, that is, you see so many of these things, you're like, okay, that's just like a pile of old stones. Okay, what is it really? That's actually part of the original city of Jerusalem. So we're talking 3,000 years old or older. So I think part of it was David built on top of the Jebusites, what they built. So we're looking at stones from David's time, and we're looking at stones from even before that, the Jebusites' time. Really crazy. And it even got to be I saw so many old ruins like that. Even some places I walked through, it was just kind of like, oh, look, more ruins. I don't even know what this is, but I'm going to keep going because we don't have enough time. It was amazing. There was so much archaeology going on there that there wasn't time to get to it all. So here's a view of Jerusalem looking from the Mount of Olives. I'm standing on the Mount of Olives this day. Obviously, you can see the Dome of the Rock. I almost want to grab a broom and start pointing up there at the picture. The southern steps, you see the wall in front, right? That's the eastern wall, the Mount of Olives, and the Valley of Kidron in front of it. The wall cuts back this way, and you see the southern steps. The southern steps are right there. So the southern steps, the eastern wall, and then the Temple Mount right on top. That's the Kidron Valley cutting across. So I'm on the Mount of Olives. I'm looking across the Kidron Valley where Jesus would have walked up to the Garden of Gethsemane and a whole bunch of other times down Palm Sunday Road. Really cool view from over here. It was kind of rainy that day, but really cool view. And here I'm standing a ways down the Mount of Olives, kind of looking into the Valley of Kidron, or the upper part of it. The valley gets deeper the farther south it goes, but I think this will show a view. Yeah, here we go. Of what it looks like in present day, looking at the eastern wall at the Valley of the Kidron. See how steep it gets down over there? That doesn't really show it, I guess, actually. It gets even steeper. So yeah, that corner of the wall you're looking at, that's that same pinnacle of the temple. I'm just looking at it from the other side.
Did they tell you the story of why that gate in the middle of the wall is
They did. I forgot. I think it was Muslims didn't want, because Jews know that Jesus is going to go through, he's going to come down on the Mount of Olives, walk through across the Valley of Kidron and through to the temple. I think the Muslims blocked it up because, right? The Muslims blocked it up? Yeah.
Muslims filled in the gate because they were scared Jesus would come through it.
Right.
Come to destroy them.
Right, which is really interesting. It's really interesting because obviously, okay, so does Jesus have power? Does he not? But also the fact that they were talking about how when Jesus comes again, it's talking about the Mount of Olives being split in two, big earthquake happening, split in two, and then Jesus going forth, kind of like a road opened up for him, and that gate of block of stone isn't going to stop him.
They talk at all about the Jewish and the Muslims who were buried in front of the gate where Jesus is going to come. The Muslims have their whole cemetery
Yeah.
trying to prevent anybody else from going through.
Okay, right, because I heard a little bit of that. I didn't catch all of it. I think it was something like the priest can't go through a graveyard, right? The priest can't be unclean by going through a graveyard. So they put their tombs, the Muslim tombs, in front of, yeah.
It's quite a large indentation they built down the side and
Okay.
up to the gate so that they don't want anybody else to get.
Right, that's a really good point. I forgot about that, yeah. So we got, yeah, so on the Mount of Olives, everybody's buried facing towards Jerusalem so that they can be the first ones to go in with the Messiah as he's coming back to Jerusalem. But on the other side, you got Muslims buried there so that they can stop the Jews or whatever. Yeah. Israel's an interesting place. We're blessed to live in America. I can say that. I can say it over and over again. We are really blessed to be in America. I was thinking that. I was like, when I get home, I got to tell people that. We are really blessed to be in America. I'm not going to dwell on that. There's more I can say on that, but yeah. That's me standing in the Mount of Olives. We're looking towards the same direction as we were in the previous picture. I'm not standing in the Mount of Olives. I'm standing in a Garden of Gethsemane. Maybe not the Garden of Gethsemane, but a Garden of Gethsemane right there. There's some olive trees behind me. And some people will say, the olive trees, they're 2,000 years old and they could have been there when Jesus was there. Well, our tour guide, our Messianic Jew tour guide was telling us, no, it's more like the root systems can be that old because they just continually spring up new shoots, but not the trees themselves. So it's really interesting. I guess the trees get older and bigger, and then they start to die and shoots come up. So the root systems really could be 2,000 years old or older. This is past the Eastern Gate, so we're up on the Temple Mount, and we're looking towards the Mount of Olives. So you're looking through, and you're looking at, what's that church called at the top of the Mount of Olives? I can't remember. They built a church where they believe that Jesus ascended, and so you see a steeple, if you can see it. Maybe. I can't remember what it was called. There was a bunch of churches, a church of this, church of that, you know, where events happen. So I can't really remember. But yeah, maybe it was a church of Ascension where Jesus rose and arose. And we're looking at the Valley of Kidron towards the Mount of Olives. And I got a video here of the Temple Mount. I'm not sure how much of the video I'm going to show, but.
Chapel of the Ascension.
Chapel of the Ascension?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Google. No, that's good. Looking at the Dome of the Rock from Temple Mount, and again, it was absolutely massive up there. This doesn't really show it to scale. You can't get the sound on, can you, Jeremiah? No. Okay, no problem. So that's looking out. I can't really pause it. That's looking out towards southern Jerusalem. That's looking out towards the southern steps. That's the southern wall I'm zooming in at right now. And then I'm up on Temple Mount. It's just like it's big up there, and it just gets way bigger up there. And this time I'm looking over towards the Mount of Olives. So that was a really nice day too. Sunny. The weather was great in Israel. Like, it was during the rainy season, and we lucked out because it only rained like twice. And it was like, that was really nice. It was mostly sunny there when we were there. It was really cool. I went from New York weather to 55 degrees and sunny most of the time. The Garden Tomb. So after we went to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, after we went through Jerusalem, the second day we went to a different site that's proposed as where Jesus was crucified and buried. Less likely to be the spot, but it was really neat anyways. It felt a lot more like the actual spot than the Church of the Holy Sepulchre did. Church of the Holy Sepulchre, big cathedral-ish type church with dark gray walls and gloomy inside. And then we get to this place, and it really felt like it. There was an actual, this was the place they took a picture of the hillside and they say, it looks like a skull right here, so maybe Jesus was crucified here. And then there's a garden nearby with a wine press, and then this tomb right here. Those stones behind me obviously were put in later when it was crumbling, but I got a quick video of what it looks like inside right now, where it's possible, not likely, but possible where Jesus was buried. But at least it's a very old, I think at least 1800 or 1700 year old tomb that would have looked a lot like what Jesus was buried in. Over there was their wine press on the right. Over on the left, they grabbed the stone. I'm not sure from where, but they grabbed the stone and put it here just to show you what one would have looked like. Now we're moving on towards this day. We're going on towards Masada. This right here is we're going up towards En-Gedi, where Saul was chasing David, and David went into the caves with his 600 men, and Saul went after him with 3,000, and Saul happened to be in the same cave. Pastor Skelly, we weren't able to go up to the caves because last year in May, I don't know if you went, but last year in May, there was a big rainstorm, and it just washed out the road and put huge boulders on the road, so we couldn't walk up anymore. Pastor Skelly said, though, the caves up there could fit 3,600 people, no issue. So I was like, wow, it would have been really cool to have been up there, but did you go up there at all?
No.
Okay. We're down by the Dead Sea kind of area, and we're heading towards Masada, the southern end of the Dead Sea. This is about halfway up the Dead Sea, or 2/3 of the way on the northern end, or something like that. Just another stream that's coming down, flowing into the Dead Sea, but it's really cool. There were tombs in the hillsides, just carved right into the rock, or at least they were there or something. I don't have the video for that. This is a picture I took out of the bus windows. We're driving on the Dead Sea, so you don't really see a very good picture here, but you can barely, in my picture on the phone, you can barely make out Moab and Edom on the other side. Or Jordan, actually. Either Jordan, Moab, or Edom. I think Edom would have been more north of this. But it was a very nice day when we went to Masada. About 65 degrees and sunny. I mean, going from New York weather, it couldn't get any better than that. And the Dead Sea, you think you look at a map and it looks pretty big. Well, this felt massive. Because Israel isn't a big country, this felt massive. It seemed to stretch on forever. What's really interesting is that the Dead Sea keeps receding. Every year it gets a little bit lower, and they have all sorts of sinkholes where the sea used to be. So they have to build their road like way up here. I'm taking a picture from high up. That's because if they built a road too low, it would collapse. That happened in the past. We drove by and we saw a place where a road went by and the bridge was like this. It was broken because there was a sinkhole right underneath it and collapsed. Interestingly, there was a sign that said, in English, it said, sinkholes stay away. People weren't supposed to go there. Our Messianic Jew tour guide who was there, he said it, I think either he or I think his friend got caught in a sinkhole once, and he had to go get his family to go get him and rescue him out of that when he was a young boy. They had a sign over there at one spot, and there was a bunch of cars parked there, but it said, in English, it said, caution, sinkholes, or danger, stay out. In Jewish, it said, picnic area. So I guess the local, either they want to get rid of the locals or they think they know enough what they're doing. So there were people up there with their cars and they're having a picnic. Anyways, here's a picture I got from, I was hiked up to Masada. So Masada, I don't need those details, you all know. Masada, a place where Jews were held out in AD 73. Romans came and attacked them there. I hiked up the trail. Instead of taking the cable car up, I hiked up the trail and took the cable car down. I got this picture. It was just an amazing view. You could see across the Sea of Galilee it felt Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, not the Sea of Galilee. If you could see the Sea of Galilee from up there, you would have quite the eyesight. But it was just really cool views from up there. It felt like a Grand Canyon type of thing. I've never been to the Grand Canyon, but it kind of felt like that because there was all these water washed out, all these little canyons, and very deserty. And you are able to see, can you guys see that square down there? Out like in the middle of the picture on the left-ish side. That square used to be a Roman camp. So when the Romans came and attacked them in the AD 72, 73, something like that, they built these camps all around there. So you could see probably almost a dozen of them here, all the way around Masada. I guess I don't have a view. Oh, I thought I had a view. Where is it? Okay, well, I'm going to get a view from the cable car down, going down from Masada. So that's a time-lapse video I took. My uncle let me borrow his GoPros, and so I took some very nice videos with those. Unfortunately, it takes up a lot of space, and it's hard to fit in a PowerPoint presentation. But I'm going to do that one again, just so you can, because it's a quick video, but very cool view up there from Masada. That's taking the cable car down after I'd hiked up.
How fast you going?
Not fast. That's a time-lapse. Yeah, no, it was about 1/10 of that speed at the fastest. So, yeah. I should have mentioned that. That's actually a really good point. I guess I don't have that video. Okay, that's too bad. You know where this is. Anybody else know where this is? I'm sure you guys recognize it. I bet you guys recognize it. No? Dead Sea Scrolls, you said? Yep, Dead Sea Scrolls. That's the cave right there where some shepherd guy threw a rock into there and heard the pot go ping, and he was like, what was that sound? And they went in there and they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. That was one cave out of like 13. That's the most famous cave because it's the closest and they can get a picture of it easiest. But what time is it? 9:15. We're running out of time. There were about 13 caves, and there was actually like a monastery type of thing there where they would have copied the scrolls. So people would go there, they'd intern for maybe a year or 2 or 6 months, I don't know, whatever. And then when Israel was being attacked by Rome, or actually even before Israel was attacked by Rome, these guys knew it was coming. These guys knew Israel was going to rebel. So they went and hid for years before, 2 or 3 years before it happened. They actually hid their stuff in the caves. So I think I got a video of it from here. That valley on the left was super deep. It's a lot bigger than it looks. Like, it doesn't really look small, look very large, but it was looking at great distances. I'd say it's probably almost a mile to the bottom of that valley right there. Maybe more than, actually probably more than a mile. Should be able to see me swing around, trying to get the view of some caves up there. In the video I'm talking, so it makes more sense, but that's looking towards the south, towards the southern end of the Dead Sea. That's the Dead Sea right there. You can see across to Jordan. That's looking towards the northern Dead Sea, and maybe even where the Jordan flowed in, the Jordan River Valley. So this is a picture I took, and you can't really see the detail very well on the screens, but this is where we went to go swim in the Dead Sea. I swam, and this is just walking down to the beach there, overlooking the Dead Sea. Questions, thoughts, comments? Yep. To give you perspective about that, I think like normal seawater is 2 or 3% mineral. The Dead Sea is about 30%. So they only wanted you to stay in the water for no more than 15 minutes or else you'd start to dehydrate. Yeah, no more than 15 minutes. 15 minutes. It's kind of crazy. And they said, don't get it in your eyes. Don't get it in your eyes. Because if you do, somebody will have to lead you back up, and they're going to have to shower fresh water into your eyes to get you to be able to see again. So they were saying, don't splash, don't dive, don't get your face wet, keep your head above water. And it was just like, wow. I mean, I kind of wanted to experience it just to feel it, but I didn't try it. I was like, being led by the hand out of the water just isn't my cup of tea, so. But yeah, it was really cool, being able to swim. It was kind of colder-ish that day, only like 60 degrees. I was kind of meh about going, but I ended up going. I'm glad I did. Okay, so this is moving on up towards northern Israel, the hill of Moreh. This is where the Midianites camped when Gideon attacked them. Midianites camped, the army of 130,000 camped up right up against that hill. I'm standing where Gideon's spring is, and that night Gideon had gone up to that hill, on the three sides of that hill. They lit their torches, and then the Midianites essentially just went and killed themselves, thinking that the enemy was among them. And this is here, and not a very good picture. This doesn't really show the true scale of it, but this is Gideon's spring right there. So we don't really know where the river was, the stream was, where the people went down and drank the water, but we at least know where the spring was because the spring wouldn't change. How quickly should I go? It's 9:25. Should we wrap it up, or 2 more minutes, or what? What should I do? 5 more minutes? Okay. This is the city of Bet Shean. This was a pretty big Roman city. This was like the capital city of the Decapolis. Decapolis meaning the cities, the Greek cities on the east side of the Galilee and the southern side of Galilee. This was kind of the capital city. That hill over there is the hill where they took Saul's body and put him up on the city walls to display. The Philistines said, "Hey, we won, we beat these guys." And then when the men of Jabesh Gilead heard about it, they ran up there, took the bodies down, and gave them a proper burial. Really cool city. We were sitting in the amphitheater right there, filled with many, many columns, and there was a lot of temples there, ruins of temples anyways. This is a sunrise at Galilee I got a picture of. I went down there for 2 sunrises, and they were very, very cool. Right here is a stone that they formed this stone at the, a copy of a stone that they found in Magdala that would have been in the synagogue where they probably laid their scrolls and spoke from right there. So Jesus could have spoken from a stone just like that, laid a scroll right on the stone, and taught right from a stone, just like that one. I'm going to keep going on real quick. I want to get a couple more views in here. That peak right there is Mount Arbel. It's not really mentioned in the Bible, maybe once or twice, but we went up there because it has a really, really good view of Galilee. And this is me standing on that peak, looking over Galilee. So kind of like directly, if you go straight up from my head, you come to Bethsaida. To the right, straight up and to the right of my head, to the left, from our view to the left would have been Capernaum and Chorazin. And then like below me is Magdala. So we're looking at the north end of Galilee. Capernaum is like in the middle on the north. So we got Capernaum, Chorazin, Bethsaida, then Magdala right below me. And then we've got a city called Hippos. I'm going to go through this video real quick. I want to show you this. I want to show you this because this is coming up in my sermon today. This is the city, the entrance to the city of Hippos. It was named that way, I think, because it was shaped like a horse's back, and Hippos has to do with a Greek word meaning horse or something like that. I can't really quite remember, but very, very windy. This city was like right up there. So this is on the eastern side of Galilee. It's the only city on the eastern side of Galilee in Jesus' time, actually, today, because the hills are so steep. So when we got up there, it was kind of cold, but it was super, super windy, and it wasn't really a bad day. They tell you that storms arise quickly on Galilee. This wasn't a bad day at all, and it was wind so hard it was knocking the hat off my head. It was, and at times it almost like made me push over or fall over. But I got a video here overlooking Galilee from Hippos, if it'll come up. And it was, okay, there we go. You could see pretty much the whole city, or the whole Sea of Galilee from here. Let me see. Play, there we go, okay. And that's looking directly across toward Tiberias and Magdala right there. And then Capernaum on the north, on the left. You see that, let me play it again. Okay. There we go. You see how steep it is right here, kind of where I'm standing? It just drives right down into the sea, especially right here. That's where I think this story that I'm going to talk about, Mark chapter 5, I think that's right where that happened. The valley of Gadara, the country of Gadara, the area of Gadara, where the pigs rushed down into the sea. I think that happened right over here. I can obviously see that happening because it was so steep they would just be able to rush right down and in. Really cool. Really windy, but really cool. Let me see if I can. Okay. Well, we missed one picture, but this is in Nazareth. On the left picture, that's standing in not the synagogue, but a synagogue that they built that would have looked like a synagogue back then. And then on the right, the guy is standing in a wine press that they found that's original, with a tower behind them that they found and they rebuilt. Over here is what they would call, and this is really cool, I don't have time to really go through it all, but a Gethsemane. This is a Gethsemane. It's a olive press. So they crush the olives over there on the thing on the left, using maybe a donkey to walk around in a circle. On the right, they'd pick up that ginormous pole, that log, and then they'd put the olives underneath and set it down on them and press the olive oil out. Really cool. So this, I think, they found the actual place, and then they went and rebuilt some of the stuff to make you really be able to see how it is, how it would have been. I think this is my last picture, one of my last pictures. This is just looking at the Mediterranean from Caesarea. That was a really cool place. Herod built that to be a port city on the Mediterranean, so they brought in tons of ships, tons of shipping ports, all that. Don't have really too much time to get through that. On our left, that guy on the left is Pastor Kurt Skelly. He's the one who started Land of the Bible Tours. And on the right is Pastor Kerry Schmidt. He was a professor of mine from the college, so both these guys are connected to my college, and so I know them pretty well from that. And that is our Israeli guide. He is a Messianic Jew, and he was insanely knowledgeable about Israel. So he's been in Israel for, I think, 20 years. He was born in Israel, went to the USA, and then went back to Israel, and he's been in Israel for 20 years or something. He is very, very knowledgeable, and really like this guy a lot. All right, I think that is it. It is 9:23 or something no. Yeah, what? 10:22, yeah, one of those numbers. Questions, thoughts, or comments? I mean, I feel like I talk too much. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Happy to.
Did your guide say anything else about how Messianic Jews are faring there?
He said
Are they
they're
still kind of doing it secretively?
a little bit, yeah. I think he said something like, he didn't say they're the outcasts, but they kind of are the outcasts. Like, they're excluded from stuff. I didn't hear too much about that, but yeah, they're definitely excluded from stuff. So, yeah.
That's how it was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I was there during the Passover, and they had to have the Passover done in secret, and they had to live in their little camps.
Really?
Because they couldn't overtly be that
Yeah.
noticeable.
Yeah. Right. Which is interesting because the Muslims can do their stuff. Maybe there's so many Muslims there, and the tensions are that high with them, they don't want to mess with them. I don't know, but yeah, Muslims are big in Jerusalem. But yeah, the Messianic Jews, they're a little bit outcast there. But this guy Benny, he was a very, very good tour guide. So we had our tour guide who started the tour company, Pastor Kurt Skelly, and then we had Benny, who was like the tour guide from there. He was the one who would go through and talk a lot about the details and how they lived in these towns and why these houses were so close together and how the aqueducts work and that type of stuff. Pastor Kurt Skelly would spend more time drawing Bible stories together and talking about that. Very, very cool trip. If anyone wants to go, I highly recommend. Yeah, $3,600, and yeah, I don't regret spending that one bit. Even though I'm a cheapskate, I don't regret spending that one bit. Would anybody like to close this in prayer? Alex, thanks.
for Jonathan, that he was able to go to Israel. We thank you that he was able to come and share these pictures with us, and that through this, that he was able to get a connection to the land, which you told us about in your word, the place where almost all of the Bible took place, Lord. We thank you for so much of it still being preserved, that we can trace the truth of the Bible straight to the land, and we can see exactly where things happened, and that the Bible is reliable in these cases. Lord, we thank you that you were able to partake in this and enjoy these pictures and the stories that Jonathan was able to share with us. May it bless us, and Lord, we ask that the rest of the service will be glorified. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.